Oh, Robin, thought Drake as he walked aimlessly towards his home. How will I manage without you? Why did she have to come into your life? Drake knew that was unfair. It could have been any woman. He always knew that it would happen one day, but he never thought it would hurt so bloody much. It had started to rain. Perfect, thought Drake. Why not hail locusts and frogs as well? He was still at least a mile from his home. There were no hansoms in sight. He saw the arch of a small churchyard a few feet away. Any port in a storm, he thought, and walked quickly toward the churchyard, looking for a suitable shelter. A light in what must have been the vicar's office at the rear of the church beckoned to him. Drake knocked on the door. It was opened by a young man of about 30 with wavy black hair, piercing blue eyes, and a pleasant smile. Come in out of this beastly weather, he said in a rich baritone voice. This is a night in which no being, man or beast, should be abroad. Let me take your things. I'll hang them near the fire. Welcome to my study. The vicar settled Drake into a large leather-covered chair and went over to a small shelf that held an assortment of bottles and glasses. I can offer you brandy, quite fine, or whiskey, also quite good. Which would you prefer? Whiskey sounds good on a night like this, said Drake, beginning to feel less chilled. The clergyman handed Drake a glass and sat down on the overstuffed chair in front of him. He lifted his glass toward Drake in a toast. May you have warm words on a cold evening, a full moon on a dark night, and the road downhill all the way to your door. They drank. I'm Reverend Ewan Forbes, new to the sacred parish of St. Uriel's Light. Welcome to my study. And you are, my friend? Heathcote, Earl of Drake Martin. Drake to my friends. Your welcome of me, sir, certainly puts you in that category, especially were you to offer me a dram more of this very fine whiskey. A pleasure, Drake. The two men sat back in their chairs, enjoying the crackling of the fire and the warmth of the whiskey as it slid seductively through their veins. The sudden storm continued to rage outside the sanctuary of the cozy welcoming room. If it's not too much to ask, Drake, what brings you out on a night like this? Drake thought of giving a polite but uninformative answer. I was on my way home and got caught by the storm. But even as he took a breath to say those words, he stopped. He didn't want to give a polite answer. He needed someone to talk to, and perhaps this friendly vicar with a good Scotch whiskey was such a person. Certainly he couldn't tell him the entire truth. Perhaps, though, just perhaps, he could tell him enough, and then the vicar could help him figure out what to do. I was at a friend's home, he began, and I was upset when I left. I didn't realize the storm was approaching, and I decided to walk. Then the skies opened up. The vicar nodded, but said nothing. Drake knew that the vicar was attentively listening to him. It was an unusual experience. Of course, people listened to him when he gave them instructions, but he couldn't remember ever really having someone listen to him when he needed to speak of his feelings, something he rarely did anyway. When he wanted to speak about difficult matters, Drake spoke to Wyatt, who listened to him, comforted him, and helped him. But now the problem was Wyatt, and he couldn't say the things to Wyatt that were raging in his mind and heart. I was upset, Drake continued after a few silent minutes, because I realized that I'm going to lose my dearest friend, and I don't know what to do. We've been together since we were newly breeched. We were at school together. We are closer than brothers. There are circumstances that I can't explain, but for my friend's sake, I have to terminate our relationship. Loss of someone close to us is one of the most difficult experiences we face as human beings, said the vicar. Even if it's not loss because of death, we grieve deeply. Our world feels like it's been torn apart. This terrible situation was Drake's responsibility to handle properly. He and Wyatt had been happy together for so many years, platonic and unknowing on Wyatt's side of the relationship, as monogamous as the most devoted man and wife. Drake had created the situation knowing it couldn't last. Now it was his job to end it so that his friend, his dearest, most beloved friend, could go on with his life as he was meant to do. Maybe, after a long period of time apart, they could be friends again. Maybe, but it was difficult to imagine. How could Drake spend time with Wyatt, knowing that he wanted a woman as his lover? How could he bear it? Drake's heart was breaking even as he realized that there was no escape for him. He had to create the opportunity for Wyatt to become what he was meant to be, a man who could love a woman. He put his head in his hands, and his body was racked with sobs. The vicar said nothing, did nothing, except sit and bear witness to Drake's grief. When Drake began to fumble for his handkerchief, the vicar got up, filled Drake's glass with whiskey, and handed to it. The vicar's eyes were filled with compassion and tenderness. You are resolved to do what you must. Yes. What will you do? Drake thought for a few minutes, examining and discarding one idea after another. I think I need to go away for a while, perhaps a great while. I don't know if I can ever really come back. Did you commit a crime so that you can't return? Is loving someone unsuitable a crime? True love, not lust. True love and unconsummated, whispered Drake. True love is a gift, said the vicar, even if circumstances and society create complications. Yes, it has been a gift, but now I must renounce it and my friend. Where will you go? I have no idea, said Drake. I've never really been anywhere outside of England. I have no family in far-flung places or plantations in the West Indies to attend to. The vicar nodded his head. Sometimes unknown places can help us learn to know ourselves better, he said. I haven't seen my friend with the whiskey in quite some time. I've only a few bottles left. What would you say to a trip to Scotland? Scotland, replied Drake. The vicar continued. My friend Cameron has a large castle with more rooms than residents, and I'm sure he'd be happy for company. He runs a very successful brewery. Scotland's a lovely land and the people are friendly. When you return, you can bring back a few bottles of whiskey. Take your time touring. Whenever you return, the delivery will be welcome. Do you think he would really want to entertain a house guest he doesn't know? Asked Drake. I suspect that you and he have similar interests, replied the vicar. Drake frowned. Was the vicar suggesting that this man was also uninterested in the company of women? Cameron rarely leaves his home. He's not a hermit. He insists that if he ventures too far from the distillery, the brew gets upset and goes sour. He's a very sociable man, though, and he enjoys company. You'd be doing him a favor by visiting him, and me a favor by bringing back some of his sweet whiskey when you're ready to return. Drake didn't want to go anywhere, but he knew he had no choice.